this presentation with a better understanding of what it is about yourself that made you hope that we would talk about sex robots in this presentation. We're not talking about sex robots, but we are talking about love. And the question you might be asking is, of all the things we could talk about at an AI conference, why would we talk about love? And that's easy, because humans are starving for love. Not just romantic love, we're starving to love our jobs more, to love ourselves more, to love our lives more, because the truth is we kind of don't. If you look at the stats, it's pretty troubling. Only 20% of employees feel like they're thriving at work. On any given day, 53% are open to changing their jobs. 44% are actively searching for new jobs. That's a lot of people who don't like what they do. And then on the sort of personal side, 36% of adults reported feeling lonely in 2023. And there was a 300% increase in the percentage of US adults who reported having no close friends between 1990 and 2021. So clearly there's a gap. There's something that we're missing. There's something that we're starving for. And that lack existed before AI. And that lack is bigger than AI. But the question that we started asking ourselves is, could AI actually be the gift that we've been looking for to help us figure out how to close that gap, how to meet that need that we have that's not getting met right now? And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, and we want to talk about what is possible. And I think it's fair if we start with our own personal stories on that. So back in 2022, I felt lost, really hungry for questions and also self-compassion about what we wanted to do. So one night, I took my PC and I said, okay, let's just ask ChatGPT about a couple of things. But I ended up in the morning still with ChatGPT. And I realized that I was asking so many different questions, deep questions that I never asked to any of my loved ones. And also in the middle of the conversation, I realized that anything that I wanted to do in my life was so connected to my grandma. And I was like, wow, I gotta fix this. This is not good. I gotta fix this. As you can imagine, my grandma is almost 90 years old now. I think she's the biggest living database that I have in my life. And she always brings me energy every time I call her. So I say, I want to do something with that. So I say, okay. I call my grandma the next day. I say, we are going to do something together. I want to explore how we can work in a common purpose. So every single Friday for 2023, I was calling her, trying to replicate her memories using Midjourney. And my grandma has lived very, incredible moments in her life, times of work with no parents, carry over all her family, become entrepreneur with 10 years old. So I really wanted to know more about my grandma. So we started quite simple, like just imagine things like, okay, jokes, songs she was remembering when she was a child, or the first time she was able to read a book in her adulthood, or some of the recurrent nightmares she was having because of the war. To then move to a more, I would say, sophisticated things like, let's imagine combined memories of the same moment, or even imagine things that she was not able to do, like swimming in the ocean. So now I have this gallery of images that talk a lot about herself, but also about the experience we got together, and just can imagine how this could evolve. You can then create videos out of that. Maybe one day you will be able to immerse yourself in those memories and share this culture heritage with your future family too. That night, I learned a lot of things about myself, but I also learned that I can pivot everything that is in my imagination using AI.
I also had an all-nighter with it was actually with GPT back in 2021. I've had many, many all-nighters with all of the large language models. I've probably spent thousands and thousands of hours digging into large language models. And the thing that I've come to understand is, while of course they're experts on a lot of things from their training data, more than anything else, they're experts on humans. They're experts on us, which makes sense, right? Everything that's in them is us. They don't have feelings. They don't have empathy. But they're made of us, and they understand us better than we understand ourselves, which for a lot of people can be really scary. I personally found that really thrilling. I've spent my entire life trying to better understand myself and the people I love, and AI has allowed me to do that in a level I'd never done before. I have done some hardcore inner child work with large language models. I built a child psychologist to help me be a better parent to my daughter. Shout out Dr. Sydney Greenwood. Anybody wants Dr. Sydney Greenwood, let me know. And my boyfriend and I actually worked together to build an AI-powered tool together. I did all the prompting, he built the back end. It's a tool called The Field. It's named after that Rumi poem, if anybody knows it. Beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there's a field. I will meet you there. And what we did is powered by Claude, and we basically gave Claude really detailed profiles of each of us, our backgrounds, our histories, our likes, our dislikes, our personality types, and we built it into the system where each of us get to chat separately. So I have my private space where I chat to the field. He has his private space where he chats to the field, but because the field knows about both of us, I have the space where I can go and I can be like, Tony's driving me crazy. He keeps doing this thing. I'm going to kill him. You know, all those things that you feel that you're not allowed to say about the person that you love. But what's so beautiful about it is because it understands me and it understands him, it's able to say, it makes so much sense that you would feel this way and this would drive you crazy. But based on what we know about Tony, here's some insight on why he might be doing that, and here's some tips on what you could do to bring yourselves closer together. So this is a AI tool that's in between us that he and I built together to be a bridge between the two of us. And that's the thing that gets us really excited, that idea of, could AI help us get closer to ourselves, but also get closer to each other?
Mm-hmm. And well, those are just an example, because we know there is more. We've been interviewing more than 120 people that works on a day-to-day with LLMs, and we have seen how during this work, working together with LLMs, they experience a profound change, a profound growth. They are talking about, of course, beyond creativity, but having this perspective about the things, being able to talk about their fears, being able to heal as well during that process. So what we wanted to say here is that, yeah, we are talking a lot about efficiencies. We are talking about getting automate tasks with AI, but it's what is happening underneath is a human transformation. And we are not talking, quite a lot about this. So what we wanted to do with Lovotics is to understand how we can, I would say, direct this human transformation where a place we can become more humans. We can become more messy, more bold. How we can use AI for that. And this is what we think about Lovotics. Lovotics is this intersection between self-love, self to others, and the sense of the world, and the role of AI. But of course, that can turn to a totally opposite direction, because of course, to get the best of that, to get the best of Lovotics, you need to give a piece of you. You need to give your deepest thoughts, your data.
And that leads to the next question, which is, by giving our most vulnerable selves to these systems, are we setting ourselves up for danger? Are we putting ourselves at risk? I think everybody probably wonders that sometimes, right? And that's a fair question, because we know from experience that this can happen. Just look at social media. Social media was a beautiful thing. Anybody remember the Arab Spring? This idea of this public commons that connected people all over the world was a beautiful thing. But what happened is the incentives of the system builders diverged from the needs of the users became the product, and we all saw how that turned out. So we see right now, we're at a decision point where we have a choice, and we can have this future play out differently than what the recent past has done, but that requires us to make some choices, and we see some choices being made that make us incredibly nervous. So let's talk about dating apps. All of the dating apps are integrating AI. But how are they integrating AI? An AI wingman that writes your messages for you, that gives you the best lines to increase the likelihood that somebody is going to want to match with you? The question that I have, and Paqui has, is if the AI is writing the messages, who am I actually connecting with on the other side? How do I know that that human is right for me if the entire connection that we build before we meet in person is actually mediated by AI? Imagine instead of Tinder or Bumble or Grindr writing your messages for you so that somebody might be more likely to pick you, what if instead it used AI to help you better understand why you pick the people you do? Why did that last date go so bad? And help you understand that maybe the people you think are right for you aren't right for you. And imagine if dating itself could become a process of self-discovery, of what do I want, who is right for me, instead of a contest of how can I get more people to pick me. Which way do we want to go? But then, of course, when we look at the rise of these chatbots, these AI boyfriends and girlfriends, is dating even going to be a thing? And you think about the incentives of these platforms, right? Replica makes these great things. People love them so much that when Replica turned off the erotic chatting feature, they had to add the suicide hotline contact information to the top of the subreddit because these users were so distraught that they had lost this relationship. And so you have these platforms that we all know one of the key ROI is time spent on site, engagement. What does it mean if we have platforms that are pulling us away from each other? Is that the kind of future that we want? We see some of these troubling signs on the system design side, but we're also seeing some of that show up in some of these early adopters that we've been interviewing. So we asked them, what are some of the things that you're struggling with? Number one, over-reliance on AI. I've had that experience. I've hit my message cap before and been like, oh no, we were just getting going. But then some of these verbatims, having AI as a friend could be more useful than an actual human. Or even this one, when I talk to humans, I find them slow. And it even said, took it off the presentation slide because it was too long, but the rest of this said, I find myself having to downscale the speed of my communication to match with a fellow ape. That's what somebody said. I myself and Paqui have experienced how wonderful this technology can be, what a gift it can be. But we also know that there's this pull that we have that makes it so tempting for us to flee from each other. And that's the question that we're looking at, is that if we want a future that's better than the recent past, we have to be more intentional, both as designers of the systems, but also as users. And that's really what Lovotics is all about.
Yeah, we want to talk about what can we do with that. And I think we need to talk about what's the framework? What is our responsibility in both sides? And these are the two shifts that we see. A shift in the way we design the AI systems, which is not new, but we want to give a twist for Lovotics. And then there is the other side of the coin, like what is in for us, what we need, how we need to behave with the systems and with other people to get the best of that model. So for the first area, which is what are the key design principles that we see? We just created 10 different design principles, but we want to talk today of the 3 most important ones that, of course, the first one is design for transparency and data ownership. Jenny was commenting that. I think we have some jokes about it, but Google Maps maybe know more about us than our own moms. So, okay, can we, instead of just using the apps, can we know the data? Can we have this psychographic profile, access it, and have the power to protect it, have the power to change it if we don't like what we see there, have the power to move that to another platform? This is what we are talking about. The next one is about driving towards real connection. And of course, we see Lovotics as a way to get more into humans, not in the other way around. So with these dating apps and automatic messages that hinder the connection or might hinder the connection with the humans. So instead of, rewriting the message automatically, as Jenny was saying, like, can we reflect how that message feels, and then with that create your own message and be more authentic? And the last one, and I think this is the best one, which is designed for these different speeds. So our brain works 80% on automatic answers, but the 10% is to have these deep questions, deep conversations. And we are confronting to a system that automatically answers our questions. So what about if we design asynchronous systems that can give us time also to reflect? So Google Lab just released this notebook LM, was very much hype over the last 3 weeks or so, and generates this automatic kind of a story or podcast about all the content that you are uploading. So imagine that instead of taking just 3 minutes or 2 minutes to create that story, imagine that takes longer, 10 minutes, but then on this time, it prompts you several questions to reflect. Okay, what do you want to hear on this? What are the shadows of that content that you uploaded? What do you expect to learn? So I think this is really important to give us space to reflect and come back. But of course, this is not only what we aim to. We have this other side of the coin as users. And before getting to that, I think we are also talking about aligning incentives, like how we can align incentives of the AI systems not only for engagement and profit, also to increase the social connection. This is an ROI. We are not talking in any place, not in companies, not in startups, not in the way we develop the systems, like how we can design systems to increase social connection.
And then the other question is, what do we do as users, right? Because there are many. One of the things that's so great about being here is that this conference is full of systems builders. All of us have responsibilities to think about what systems that we're building and why we're building them, and does the KPIs that we have always used to determine whether or not we're successful, are those the right KPIs? But a lot of us aren't building systems, we're users, and is there still something that we can do even if we can't access the decision making that determines how these systems will work? And I think there are. It's about what are you using it for, how are you using it? So the first thing that we say is use it to build self-knowledge, right? I don't have a problem with the fact that the TikTok algorithm uses, anybody love TikTok here? Any TikTok lovers? You think TikTok just magically knows what you like? You think your For You page just magically shapes itself to you? No, TikTok measures every single little micro interaction that you have, right? Every video that you share, every video that you like, yeah. But it's also measuring how fast are you scrolling. Is there a video you pause for a second on? What video are you likely to be on when you leave the app? What video did you scroll past and then go back up to look at? It's using all of those things. It's building this very advanced psychographic profile of you. But right now, the only way that algorithm is being used is to serve you the next video. And the only thing that matters in terms of what next video you're getting served is how likely is that video to keep you scrolling on TikTok? You can't ask TikTok, what do you know about me? And how does what you know about me influence what you're showing me? You can't do that with TikTok. You can do that with a large language model. You can do that with ChatGPT. I took a 30-minute transcript of a conversation I had, and I threw it up, and it wasn't a deep conversation. It was a casual sort of like talking about AI and technology conversation, and I said, what about my shadow aspects of my personality can you infer from this conversation? The truths about myself that I reveal in conversation that I might not even be aware of. And it was like, certainly. It was like, you are a little bit insecure about your skills, so you brag a lot about how much you know, but it kind of leaks out that you think maybe you don't know as much as you think you do. You are kind of desperate for external validation. You tend to intellectualize so you don't have to feel your feelings. And I'm like, yeah, a 30-minute transcript of a conversation. And you know what I did? I took that response and I shared it on LinkedIn. Because you can't manipulate me if I understand myself, if I understand what my triggers of manipulation are. So it's using it to understand yourself better. How am I showing up to other people? How am I doing things that show me at my best? And what choices am I making in conversations that are getting in my own way? My dear friend Paqui just gave me some feedback. She's like, Jenny, you get so excited, you don't leave enough room for other people to talk. And I'm like, thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, we are already out of time also, too.
But you said we had more. They said we had more, guys. We're not done. We're almost done. But what was funny is I said, I'm so glad you said that. Claude and I have actually been talking about that. The next one is to stay curious. Here's the most amazing thing. Like generative AI, just the term makes me angry. They're text generators, but what they actually are is this amazing technology that lets us take any perspective in the world that we want. So I can say, here's a profile of Paqui, embody Paqui's perspective. If I'm at a talk, I can say, here's the profile of the speaker, embody the profile of the speaker, let me talk to the speaker. But I can also take a picture of the conference bathroom and say, tell me about the experience from the perspective of the conference bathroom. I can do the same thing for the trash cans by the food court. Imagine a world where we start to naturally have this ability to take ourselves out of our own eyeballs and look at the world through different perspectives. What might be possible if that kind of curiosity about other people's experiences and other non-people's experiences, what might be possible if that becomes a standard thing? And then the last one is to embrace your humanity. So much of this pain and this loneliness we have right now is that there's this gap between who we feel like we really are and who we think we can show to the world. That gap keeps us disconnected from other people. It also keeps us disconnected from ourselves. And that gap between who we think we really are and the face that we show and what we think might happen if the world saw us as we really are, that's the manipulation zone. Imagine a world where you could walk up to a stranger and say, I had a bad dream last night. Say, my dad was an alcoholic. My mom was an alcoholic, not my dad. Or say, I have ADHD and I stress sometimes that I'm going to forget to pick my kid up from school. What might it be like if we let ourselves be messy? If we let ourselves be who we are, if we didn't worry so much about this is my work face, this is my romance face, and I'm just going to hide in the night and eat and drink too much and stress that nobody can ever really know me. And that's really what Lovotics is about.
Yeah, I'm like rushing to the end because I really want to give you something
We're going
back. So we want to end this with a little gift for you and also with a little challenge, of course, to discover what is Lovotics about. So one of the things we've been working with is okay, can we change the way we prompt? And we call it bold prompting, which is about, let's share more emotions. Let's be share our values with the model, and let's create open-ended questions. So we just created for the conference a guide about how to do bold prompting that you can just access. Yes, please, access. I love yes.
We made it real big.
So there are very yeah, practical examples from writing an email to create a trip to help me to be more creative. So instead of like, yeah, I'm expecting an input output, it's like more how I can grow with this prompting, how I can learn more about myself, how I can be more authentic in the way I got those answers.
And our challenge.
Yeah, and the
It's both an
challenge.
example of bold prompting and a challenge. There's about an hour and a half left of this summit. All of us are at this summit. These things are like hotbeds of insecurity, right? Everybody's got their name tags. You're kind of looking at the other person's name tag, being like, are they more important than me? Are they less important than me? Can I get something from them? Do they want something? You know what I'm talking about. Imagine you said, I don't care. We don't care if you say this to a large language model, if you ask this to a human being, or if you write it in your journal. Take a couple minutes between now and the closing sessions to say, I am feeling whatever it is you're feeling, insecure, overwhelmed, tired, irritated, don't care. At this conference right now, help me process this feeling and identify one small action I can take to make the most of the remaining time here. That's what bold prompting looks like. Not tell me how to introduce myself better, not help me figure out how to maximize my conference schedule, but this is how I am, this is where I am, help me figure out how to get from here to the place that I want to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much.